kids who can't read, kids who can't think, kids who have absolutely no sense of common sense.
We are concerned that we're seeing more and more violence.
Well, there's absolutely no way that we can solve all of these issues on our own.
Far and away, the best way to learn what your constituents think is to talk to them.
You may have heard comments like these from people you know. Like you, they believe we all play a part in the quality of education we provide our young people. It's up to us to help children succeed and become productive members of our society. Calling the Roll, Study Circles for Better Schools, shows how educators, policymakers, students, and community members raise their hands to show they are present and accounted for on the issues of education facing their schools. During the decades, the Southwest Educational Development Laboratory has worked in the southwestern U.S. to improve teaching and learning. We have seen the value of involving parents and community members in education and its policymaking. For this reason, we worked with Arkansas Friends for Better Schools, the League of Women Voters of Oklahoma, and the Study Circles Resource Center on this project. Our goal was to explore how to more directly connect the public with educators and policymakers in an open, inclusive forum for exchanging information and ideas. In this video, we share what we have learned with you.
Study circles are a process for small groups of people to come together on the grassroots level and to deliberate about complex social issues. It's a means for people to examine issues that are facing their community over a series of weeks with the help of a neutral facilitator, balance discussion materials, and eventually examine an issue thoroughly and then develop strategies for action.
In Oklahoma, the League of Women Voters sponsored a statewide program of study circles on education. In an earlier project on criminal justice, they had seen how study circles can make positive changes.
Study circles are different than other forms of citizen education that the League has done in the past, because most of our education to citizens is through authorities giving information to citizens and saying, is there any questions? And how can I give you more information? So it's more or less in a giving information versus gaining information from citizens. And the League knows that voting turnout and people participating in government has a great deal to do with how much people feel connected to community.
Arkansas Friends for Better Schools, an organization that encourages community-wide support for public education, saw study circles as a way to give people a real voice in education reform.
When you have folks at the grassroots level involved and committed in their public schools, things are going to happen there that are going to be positive. I really see study circles as a way to empower people. There's something that's very comfortable about going into a small group to talk about tough issues, and people who wouldn't normally go to a large, public hearing or a public meeting and stand up and talk may find a voice in some of these small study circles.
Most of the things I think that we attend as citizens are public forums, or you have a speaker who is telling you about a topic, but they don't have people sit down and be equal at a table and talk about their experiences. It's amazing to listen to people talk about how they feel about an issue and hear different people's different points of view, and it always changes my own point of view.
We've gotten to know each other, so we've developed a rapport here.
I think that whenever we get diverse perspectives together, and when people come together and they share their concerns and their ideas, then you're going to come up with a better solution to any problem.
Well, what's interesting about this approach to community problems is that because people come together in small groups and might sit down with people, their neighbors, or people from across town, the businessman sitting next to the senior citizen who lives in the neighborhood. So there are relationships that are built across the barriers that often separate us in communities. Barriers of age, educational level, race, socioeconomic level.
The study circle is a whole different ballgame, but at least it has the potential for that, because now we have the potential for the business community and anybody else outside of education to actually have some input in the decision making as to what are the objectives, and that is what I think is sorely needed.
The process has helped with the use of ground rules that ensure that there'll be an emphasis on listening and civility and respect for all points of view.
Once we started talking, everybody opened up, and I think it's because of some of the ground rules that we set forth in the very beginning that we were able to feel comfortable with each other.
Well, they're really interested in what we had to say and what we want to do to make a difference. They really showed great leadership and just sitting there listening and hearing what we had to say about it.
People coming every week with another set of issues and more enthusiasm and more dedication to this whole process.
So you see ties built, and I think that's the most interesting thing is how that changes from session 1 to session 2, session 3, and it gets stronger and more powerful, and you start seeing people believe that they have a voice again.
The real power in the program is that over a series of weeks, the citizens and members of the groups begin to develop a sense of ownership for the issue. By the final session, the members are beginning to talk about what can they do in this community to make a difference on this issue.
To help individuals or organizations start their own study circles, the Study Circles Resource Center provides ongoing guidance, training, and materials. In Arkansas, they worked with Judy Wilmoth White, coordinator of the multi-community program initiated by Arkansas Friends for Better Schools. In each community, White contacted school superintendents and board members to keep the project grounded in local concerns.
I think it's important that study circles happen at the community level, because each community has its own set of issues, its own concerns.
In Crossett, White worked with Karen and Mike Murphy, parents who learned about study circles from their school superintendent.
We are concerned that we're seeing more and more violence. We're seeing more and more violence nationwide, but we're seeing more and more violence in Arkansas, specifically in Crossett. And our children will reap the destruction of that if we don't step in, and that's something we're not willing to allow to happen, at least not without trying to make a difference.
The Murphys' concerns led them to sign on as coordinators and facilitators.
There were 3 of us who went through training with Study Circles Resource Center personnel, and they came in and trained us pretty intensively, and then the 3 of us trained the other facilitators.
In Oklahoma, Carol Woodward Scott, state president of the League of Women Voters, organized a statewide project with League members who were in touch with all sectors of their communities.
I don't think truly you can reach out into all aspects of the community if you don't have representatives of that part of the community working on the planning.
But I did want to make you aware of that.
To achieve broad-based representation in Stillwater, League member Brenda Anderson Bowes called upon church, business, media, and university leaders, many of whom she knew.
To begin with, I sat down with a group of selected individuals in the community. We formed a small committee of community leaders to get the word out.
In Oklahoma City, Coordinator Grace Kelly's challenge was to bring together a diverse and sprawling population typical of a large city.
Sometimes we tend to focus on, in bigger cities, on those people that we see the most often. And I think it's important to reach all parts of the community. One of the decisions we made was to train facilitators who were bilingual so that they could talk to the different aspects of our community.
The most effective groups are those which are quite diverse. People recruit for diversity to have all kinds of people come together in the small groups. There are a lot of programs that include college and high school age students, and that's especially true with education efforts. We really encourage that. It absolutely changes the nature of the discussion to have high school students in the conversation talking about the issues that affect them every day.
We need to, as young people, talk to our teachers and let them know what we want to learn, how we can help them better themselves in teaching us and preparing us before the next level.
Calling the Roll also provided a forum to connect teachers, students, and community members with their policymakers.
I think when I first started teaching, I said, I just want to be a teacher. I want to be out of politics. I don't want to be involved in the politics of teaching. And I think over the course of my teaching career, I have found out that politics are a big part of teaching, because so many of the decisions made about education and those decisions that affect me on a daily basis, my children on a daily basis, those decisions are made at the legislature.
Sometimes what the people in the communities wanted to have done about a topic was not what was being talked about at the Capitol. And this gave them a forum to hear what people wanted to say about an issue.
An in-depth set of dialogues that can really make the decision makers understand in depth what the community believes should be done in this issue.
Because instead of the typical politician up on a platform discussing their concerns, their agenda, they're in a collaborative group.
The opportunity to explore concerns and solutions with their constituents was valuable to policymakers at all levels.
I think far and away the best way to learn what your constituents think is to talk to them. When you go to the coffee shop, you can hit a pretty wide range of things. You can solve all the world's problems in 15 minutes. But when you go to the study circle, it's focused, it's directed, and you can hone in on what the problem is and how we're going to solve it.
In Arkansas, we're a poor southern state, limited resources. We've simply got to know how to spend our dollars as wisely as possible, but we also need broad-based public support from parents and taxpayers who are willing to sacrifice in behalf of better schools in Arkansas.
Several years ago, schools thought that hands off, we can handle everything, and that's no longer true. I not only need to listen. If there are concerns and issues out there that we're not addressing, then we need to look at what can we do.
The public requires or feels that we need to provide a quality education. But just what is a quality education? That's what we're trying to get a handle on. I don't like to think of myself as a politician. I like to think of myself as a facilitator of what the folks back home desire.
Whether study circles lead to state or local policy decisions or result in school or community action, the results can be far-reaching.
Consider arguing recognized. That leads me to Senate Bill 125, which would require the State Department of Education to publish annually a performance report for each individual school in the state and distribute those reports to the parents or guardians who have children in our public schools, and to make those reports available via the internet.
As a member of the House Education Committee and co-sponsor of the bill, Representative Jeffress helped pass Senator Argue's bill in the House.
The motion is due pass on Senate Bill 125. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I think school-to-school performance reports in Senate Bill 125 relate to the Call the Roll initiative because it provides parents with school performance information. I participated in Call the Roll. I met with parents and teachers that are genuinely interested in improving their schools. But without information that's specific to individual schools, parents really don't have the right information or adequate information to judge their schools.
Information and an open exchange of ideas and perspectives can help people understand both the issues and each other.
Parents, senior citizens, business people, we can all have a better understanding of the problems and collaboratively come together so that we can try to solve them and do a better job by the young people of our community.